Hello guys, in the last video I have shown you how to use and how to define a function in Python. In this video also I'm going to continue with functions and I'm going to show you how to use some other features in functions like default parameter and multiple parameters in function. So let's get started. In the last video I have shown you how you can declare a function. So you can declare a function in Python like this. Def, for example, I want to make a function to print out the score of a student. So I can say student uh, score, for example. This is the name of my function, and in this uh, brackets I can pass parameters, right? For example, name and score. Okay, and then this colon, and inside this function we can write the definition or the code to our function. For example, I want to print something, print the student name and score. I can just write the or something like name scored this much amount of marks. So I can just write name and then comma and then scored and then comma. This should be score, right? Not scare, comma marks, right? And this is simple. You have already understood, I think, the concept of defining the function and how to print these values, right? And if I call this function, it will just give me the answer. For example, I pass name as Mark and score as 70%, and it says Mark scored this much amount of marks, right? But sometimes you want that there are some default value which are already initializing these parameters. For example, in the case of databases, it's a bad idea to save blank values or null values in the database. So, and you cannot depend upon the user that he can define, or you cannot be sure that user will define a parameter for every function. So what you can do in Python is you can define default parameter. So once again I'm going to take this function, but I will initialize this function with some value so that it will not be null at any point. For example, Tom as name and score is equal to 0, for example, right? Now I can just print the score and name, and the default value will remain just the same, right? And my function is defined, and now when I use this function, and even if I don't pass any parameter, generally you have to pass the parameter when you define a function, and when you define a function with parameters. But when you initialize a function with default value, you even skip passing the values to your parameter. And once I call this function, it says Tom scored 0 marks, because Tom is a default value and score of Tom is 0. Okay, so Tom is a default name and 0 is the default mark. And so you can ask, what is the purpose of this? The purpose of this is, if the user will not pass any value as an argument, then default value will be taken. Otherwise, if the user enters some valid name, for example Mark and 85 marks, and once again you can see it's printing marks scored 85 marks. Okay, so it has overwritten this Tom as Mark, the name, it has overwritten, as mark, and the score is overwritten by 85, right? Now you can choose to pass the first parameter and skip the second parameter. For example, you can just pass mark here, and it says mark scored 0 marks, because this it has taken as the first parameter and it has overwritten the name, but we haven't passed the score, so it will take the score as default, which is 0, so it will print like this. Now for example, you want to pass this score and you want the name to be default. What you can do, once again, take the function and this time just write score is equal to 99, for example, and it says Tom scored 99 marks, right? So Tom is the default value here and 99 is overwritten, uh, or 0 is overwritten by 99, which you passed. Okay, so this is about default parameter passing. Now there is a concept of passing multiple parameters to a function, and how you can pass these multiple parameter. For example, I will take the same example of student, and you want to pass some parameters. So I want to pass name of the student, and I want to pass multiple score of the student. For example, student has scored marks in language, marks in programming, marks in maths, or marks in some other subject, and you want to pass the parameters, but you don't know the number of subject student is taking. So what you can do in this condition, you can just use the name as it is, but for example, you want to pass multiple scores, you can just use asterisk, and this asterisk says Python that this parameter will be passed one parameter also, or multiple parameters also, so one or more parameter. So our asterisk says to the Python that this score can be multiple also, or even it can be one also. Okay, and it's saying invalid syntax. Let's see what's the error. Yeah, I have forgotten the def keyword to define a function. So I will define a function def, and then I will call this, and once again I can print for example, I will print first of all name, print name, and then I will print scores. Okay, and I will just call this function, for example student, and I will pass name as once again mark, and scores, for example he has taken language course, so he scored 55 marks in this language course. He has taken maths course, he has scored 77 marks. He has taken programming course, he scored 90 marks. He has taken other courses, physics, 67 marks, or multiple courses. Okay, so this is a wildcard kind of entry which says you can pass one or more parameters, right? And you see it has printed first of all the name of the student, which is Mark, and then these marks as a tuple. If you don't know what is a tuple is just like a list, but you cannot edit a list, or you cannot even delete an element from a list. You can just read this element from a tuple, right? So tuple is just like a list, but the only difference is you cannot modify or delete any elements from this tuple. So this is tuple, right? So in this way you can even pass multiple values using this asterisk, and it's not necessary that you need to pass only two parameters. You can just pass one parameter, for example def score, something like this, asterisk score, and it will be valid. I forgot this colon, or like this. And what's the problem here? So okay, I left some indent here, which it's saying unexpected indentation. Okay, and you want to print score, and it will be totally valid when you call this function score, and you can pass multiple values, 1 comma 3, some marks, multiple marks, right? And it will give you a tuple. So in this way you can pass default parameters to a function, and you can pass multiple parameters to a function in Python. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please rate, comment and subscribe, and bye for now.